Well, hello everybody, this is John Michael. Today is the feast day of St. Bruno of Cologne, the founder of the Carthusians. St. Bruno, that's St. Romuald right there, and next to him is St. Bruno, and again from the great icon from Oleg Skoropadsky here in Charity Chapel at Little Portion Hermitage and Monastery. Come see these wonderful icons sometimes, they are gorgeous. Make a retreat here. But the reason the Carthusians are interesting to me is, along with St. Romuald, who was first, and St. Bruno, who was later, they wanted to bring back the semi-hermit or the semi-eremitical way of life into the Western Church. The Western Church had largely lost it, so they brought this way of life from the desert, from places like Mount Athos, Palestine, Syria, and they brought this way of life back into the Western Church, and it worked, and it worked. St. Bruno I have a book coming out on St. Bruno, hopefully, I don't know, maybe next year sometime or the year after. And Bruno is powerful because he was a teacher, a professor, and one of his students was the Pope when he was not the Pope. And when the Pope came to power, he wanted to institute what now we call the Gregorian Reform, to do away with the abuses, especially in the clergy and especially simony, which was buying one's position in the church, whether it be buying a bishopric or buying an abbacy or whatever it might be. They would simply buy them. They would be rich, from rich families, rich kids, and their family would buy them those positions because they were positions of power. And the church was getting rid of this, and also the notion that the secular ruler is the one who chose our bishops. Now there's cooperation with Christian secular rulers, but the church, the Pope, chooses the bishops to get the church totally free of secular entanglement in that regard. And it was successful. But Bruno, his heart was to be a hermit. So he went in Grenoble and found a hermitage up in the Alps. And they started their hermitage. It was very small. They suffered avalanches from snow and they had to start over. They had it was very primitive and rugged. And about that time, the Pope needed his teacher, so he called him back to Rome, and Bruno said, okay, yes, sir. And he went back to serve the Holy Father. At that point, they considered disbanding the Carthusians because they had lost their leader in St. Bruno, or Father Bruno at that time. And the Pope and the bishop and Bruno said, no, stay true to the call that we heard together. And they did, and it continued. Bruno served the Pope for, about anywhere from 6 to 9 months. I've forgotten exactly how long. And he was drying up. And he finally went to his former student and he said, I'm not doing you any good here. Let me go back to the hermitage. And the Pope said, okay. But instead of letting him go back to the Alps with the community that he founded, he said, start a new community out here about 30 miles from Rome. And he did. And that's where he lived the rest of his life. He never got to go and see his original hermitage again. He lived at about 30 miles outside of Rome on a little hill, and describes it in his writings so beautifully. It's so beautiful. And he also, this is a little story. This dream was conceived by he, another guy, and another guy. There were 3 of them. One of them didn't follow the call and just kind of drops out of sight. The other didn't follow the call, but he became a bishop. And Bruno would write him and he'd say, well, you have a choice. You can either be saved and come here, or you can be in the secular world in the midst of all those troubles and you will lose your soul. The choice is yours. and he never came back. And Bruno was loving with him, but he also chided him in no small way for not answering the call that he had promised in that garden when they conceived of the first Carthusians. Last thing I'll say, because this is getting long, the only community that ever really tempted me to join, other than founding the Brothers and Sisters of Charity, were the Carthusians. And I almost joined when I was about 24 years old. I'm 71 now. And I almost joined them in Parkminster in England, which is in Sussex, down by Gatwick Airport, actually. Lovely spot. And I really wanted to join, but I did not. And I came and I founded this. And in this, I'm not alone, because John of the Cross wanted to be a Carthusian, and St. Teresa of Avila talked him into helping her with her reform, which he did. So a lot of people have wanted to be Carthusians. I'm a Carthusian in my heart. I'm a hermit in my heart. So I say frequently, and I'm glad I wrote the book. I hope you can read the book when it comes out. So I say frequently, St. Bruno of Cologne, pray for me. So let's say together, St. Bruno of Cologne, pray for us. Pray for us that we can have that integration between solitude and community that he brought so beautifully in that community. And remember, all things are possible with God.